Good evening. A packed house. My name is Ron Smith, and on behalf of the Glen Arbor players and the wherewithal that you've seen going back and forth here, we are thrilled to have you here tonight for the second performance of our 2021 season. This is the 11th play that I've directed, and it is Pete LaPlaca, my assistant director, his first shot at being an assistant director. As always, we continue to utilize the Reader's Theater format, which basically begins with limited presentation, no memorization. We're a bunch of older folks, you understand. A little bit of staging at times, and a garnish or two for costuming, especially in this play. Tonight, it's a theater classic, Pygmalion. Now, before we go any further, I'd like to just remind you to turn off your cell phones if you haven't done that already. And if you want to bring chairs closer together, that's up to you. We set it up with some distancing, trying to be in common with whatever the latest COVID rules are. Special thanks to Pastor Mike Gaffa, the church consistory, and the whole congregation of what has now become our home here, Glen Lake Community Reformed Church, or Glen Lake Church. The auditions for our next play is The Hound of the Baskervilles, and is directed by our director emeritus, Harriet Middleberger, who was one of the two founders of Glen Arbor Players. It'll be next Wednesday, September 8th, at 7 o'clock right here at the church. Now, the script calls for a large cast, so any and all of you would-be thespians are encouraged to try out. For more information, you can contact Harriet, and she happens to be here tonight, so tackle her. And or she can also be found on Facebook, or you can go to our website, which is www.glenarborplayers.org. What can I tell you about tonight's play? Well, it consists of an all-star cast, members of our little troupe, all who have delighted you sometime in the past. They've all had experience with our Reader's Theater. There are no newbies on stage tonight. It's also a theatrical classic. It was written, believe it or not, in 1912 by George Bernard Shaw. And yes, Downton Abbey had nothing on George Bernard Shaw. I mean, that series, what, 5 years ago? Even My Fair Lady, which came out of this in 1956, it all portrays this period of Edwardian England and the way the classes separated between the haves and the have-nots, who were called the aristocrats and the others. In my adapted script, I've also chosen to recognize a Broadway lyricist, Alan J. Lerner, because I believe he added color to the original story when he wrote the book for My Fair Lady. And the play and its story is basically a very clever window looking into this Edwardian period in the early 1900s. In the play, a simple flower girl attempts to break through the drudgery of the streets of London by taking on instruction in the way she handles the English language. She wants to be able to run her own flower shop, and her tutor, however, has much bigger things in mind. You will notice 4 scene changes, and they won't happen in complete darkness because our ninjas have to have a little light to find themselves around. And so pretend that you didn't see them. How's that? If you'd like a copy of the program to take with you, by all means, you're welcome to do that. If not, there's a box at the back to just toss them into for the next 2 nights. Let's now visit the opening scene in which the night people are taking shelter from a sudden rainstorm.
Housekeeper, knowing that I have witnessed the events of his story firsthand, Mr. Shaw, our playwright, has asked me to narrate this wonderful story tonight. Our play begins in London's Covent Garden at 11:15 p.m. We're experiencing a heavy summer rain just when the theatres are emptying. Cab whistles are blowing frantically in all directions, and many pedestrians have run for shelter here. Into the market and under the portico of St. Paul's Cathedral, the late-nighters take turns peering out at the rain, except for one man, who, with his back turned to the rest, seems wholly preoccupied with a notebook into which he is writing busily.
I'm getting chilled to the bone. What can your friend be doing after all this time? He's been gone 20 minutes.
Oh, not so long. But he ought to have got us a cab by this.
You won't get no car until after 11:30, missus, when they come back after dropping their theatre fares.
But we must have a cab. We can't stand here until 11:30.
Yes, it's too bad.
Well, it ain't my fault, ma'am.
If Freddie had a bit of gumption, he would have got one at the theater door.
But what could he have done? Poor boy.
Other people got cabs. Why couldn't he?
Oh, now then, Captain. Look where you're going, there.
Oh my!
There's manners for you. 2 bunches of violets trod in the mud.
I'm very sorry, young lady.
Oh, sir, is there any sign of it stopping?
I'm afraid not. It started worse than ever about 2 minutes ago.
Drat.
Well, if it's worse, it's a sign it's nearly over. So, about it, Captain? Buy a flower for the poor girl?
I'm sorry, I haven't any change.
Oh, I can give you change, Captain.
For a sovereign, I've nothing left.
Oh, go on. I do buy a flower off me. I can change £0.5. Take this bunch for just a topping.
Now, don't be troublesome. I really haven't any change.
Please, allow me, sir. Clara, have you any pennies?
No, nothing smaller than 6pence.
Give your 6pence to me, Clara. Now, young lady, this is for your flowers.
Oh, thank you kindly, lady.
Make her give you a change. These things only cost a penny a bunch.
Oh, do be civil, Clara. You may keep the change.
6pence thrown away.
Oh, thank you, lady.
And here's 3 halfpence if that's any use to you.
Oh, thank you, sir. You be careful. Give him a flower for it. There's a bloke here, taking down every blessed word you're saying.
Ooh, I ain't done nothing wrong by speaking to the gentleman. I've a right to sell me flowers if I keep off the curb. I'm a respectable girl, so help me. I never spoke to him except to ask him to buy a flower off me.
Now, nobody's going to touch you.
Well, sir, don't let him charge me. You don't know what it means to me. They'll take away me character and drive me on the streets for speaking to gentlemen. They'll do
There! Who's hurting you, you silly girl? What do you take me for?
Really, sir, if you are a detective, anybody could see that girl meant no harm.
I'm not a detective. And you, miss, how do you come to be up so far east? You were born in Lisson Grove.
Oh, what harm is there in me living in Lisson Grove? It wasn't fit for a pig to live in, and I had to pay 4 and 6 a week.
Live where you like, but stop that noise.
Come, girl, he can't touch you. You have a perfect right to live wherever you please.
Oh, I'm a good girl, I am. Ain't no need to meddle with me, he ain't.
Well, sir, Can you tell me where I came from?
Cheltenham, Harrow, Cambridge, and India.
Quite right. May I ask, sir, do you do this thing for a living at a music hall?
I've thought of that. Perhaps I shall someday.
But he's no right to take away me character. Me character is the same to me as any lady's.
Where is that Freddie? I shall get pneumonia if I stay in this draft any longer.
I don't know whether you've noticed it, but the rain stopped about 2 minutes ago.
Thank you, sir.
How do you do it, if I may ask?
Yes, you're a very strange man.
Simply phonetics, the science of speech. That's my profession, also my hobby. Happy is the man who can make a living by his hobby. You can spot an Irishman or a Yorkshireman by his brogue. I can place any man within 6 miles. I can place him within 2 miles in London. Sometimes within 2 streets.
Ought to be ashamed of himself, unmanly coward.
But is there a living in that?
Oh yes, quite a fat one.
Or let him mind his own business and leave a poor girl
You see
alone.
this creature with her curbstone English? The English that will keep her in the gutter till the end of her days? Well, sir, in 3 months, I could pass this girl off as a duchess at an ambassador's garden party. I could even get her a place as a lady's maid or shop assistant, which requires much better English. That's the sort of thing I do for commercial millionaires, and on the profits of it, I do genuine scientific work in phonetics.
I myself am a student of Indian dialects, and I...
Are you?
Yes, do you know Colonel Pickering, the author of Spoken Sanskrit? I am Colonel Pickering.
No.
Yes, who are you?
Henry Higgins.
No.
Yes, the author of Higgins' Universal Alphabet.
Did you know I came all the way from India to meet you?
And I was just going all the way to India to meet you. Well, where are you staying?
I'm at the Carlton.
Oh, no, you're not. You're staying with me at 27A Wimpole Street. Come with me now, and let's have a jaw over some supper.
But one flower, poor gentleman, I'm short to me lodging.
Oh, very well. Here you go, girl.
Ooh.
Come along, Pickering.
Off a crown and off a sovereign. Oh. Hubby, I'm going home in a taxi. Angel Court, Drury Lane, just round the corner from Mickle John's oil shop. Oh, let's see how fast you can make the old girl up.
Where is that Freddie?
It's 11 a.m. the next day at Higgins' Laboratory on Wimpole Street, where I am the housekeeper. The place is a jumble of stacked books and odd-looking instruments. It is also the residence of a bachelor, and the lack of orderliness is apparent. Pickering is at the table, putting down some cards and a tuning fork. Higgins is standing up near him, closing file drawers which are hanging out.
Well, I think that's the whole show.
It's really amazing. I haven't taken in the half of it, you know.
Would you like to go over any of it again?
Oh, no, thank you. Not now. I'm quite done up for this morning. You know, I can pronounce 24 distinct vowel sounds, but your 130 beat me. I can't hear a bit of difference between them.
Oh, that comes with practice. You hear no difference at first, but you keep on listening. And what's the matter?
A young woman wants to see you, sir.
A young woman? What does she want?
Well, sir, she says you'll be glad to see her when you know what she's come about. She's quite a common girl, sir, very common indeed.
Oh, that's all right, Mr. Pierce. Has she an interesting accent?
Something dreadful, sir, really. I don't know how you can take an interest in it.
Let's have her up. Show her up, Mrs. Pierce.
Very well, sir. It's for you to say.
Rather a bit of luck. I'll show you how I make records. We'll get her talking, and I'll take it down first in Bell's visible speech, then in broad Romic, and then we'll get her on the phonograph so that you can turn her on as often as you like with the written transcript before you.
This is the young woman, sir.
What?
How do you do?
This is the girl. I jotted down last night. She's of no use to us. I've got all the cylinders I want of the Listen Grove lingo. Be off with you.
Oh, don't be so saucy. You ain't heard what I come for yet. Did you tell him I come in a taxi?
Nonsense, girl. What do you think a gentleman like Mr. Higgins cares what you came in?
Oh, aren't we proud? He ain't above giving lessons, not him. I heard him say so. Well, I ain't come here to seek for any compliment, and if my money's not good enough, I can go elsewhere.
Good enough for what?
Good enough for you. Now you know, don't ya? I come to have lessons, I am, and to pay for them too, make no mistake.
Well, what do you expect me to say to you?
Well, if you were a gentleman, you might ask me to sit down, I think. Don't I tell you I'm bringing your business?
Pickering, shall we ask this baggage to sit down, or shall we throw her out the window?
Oh, I won't be called a baggage when I've offered to pay like a lady.
What is it you want, my girl?
I want to be a lady in a flower shop, instead of selling violets in Covent Garden. But they won't take me unless I can talk more genteel. He said he could teach me. Well, here I am ready to pay him, not asking any favour, and he treats me as if I was dead.
Oh, how can you be such a foolish, ignorant girl to think that you can afford to pay Mr. Higgins?
Why shouldn't I? I know what lessons cost as well as you do, and I'm ready to pay.
How much?
Now you're talking. I thought you'd come off it when you saw a chance of getting back a bit of what you chopped at me last night. You had a bit of a drop in you, didn't you?
Sit down.
Sit down, girl. Do as you're told.
Ow!
Won't you sit down, please?
Don't mind if I do.
What's your name?
Eliza Doolittle.
Eliza Doolittle, eh? Well, Eliza Doolittle, how much do you propose to pay me for the lessons?
Oh, I know what's right. A lady friend of mine gets French lessons for 18 pence an hour from a real French gentleman. Well, you wouldn't have the face to ask me the same for teaching me my own language as you would for French. So, I won't give you more than a shilling. Take it or leave it.
You know, Pickering, if you consider a shilling not as a simple shilling, but as a percentage of this girl's income, it works out as fully equivalent to 60 or 70 guineas from a millionaire.
Oh, £60? What are you talking about? I never offered you £60. Where would I get
Hold your tongue.
But I ain't got £60.
Don't cry, you silly girl. Sit down. Nobody's going to touch your money.
Somebody is going to touch you with a broomstick. If you don't stop sniveling, sit down.
Oh, one would think you was me father.
If I decide to teach you, I'll be worse than two fathers to you.
Higgins, this young lady interests me. Are you a sporting man? I'll say you're the greatest teacher alive if you can transform this girl. I'll bet you all the expenses of the experiment. You can't do it, and I'll pay the lessons.
Ah, you are real good. Thank you, Captain.
You know, it's almost irresistible. She's so deliciously low, so horribly dirty.
Oh, I dirty. I washed my face and my hands before I come, I did.
Well, what do you say, Higgins?
I'll do it. I shall make a duchess out of this dragon-tailed gutter snipe.
Oh!
Yes, in 6 months, in 3 if she has a good ear and a quick tongue, I'll take her anywhere and pass her off as anything. We'll start today, now, this moment. Take her away and clean her, Mrs. Pierce. Is there a good fire in the oven?
Yes,
But take all her clothes off and burn them. Yep, send out for new ones. Wrap her up in brown paper till they come.
You're no gentleman, you're not to talk about such things. I'm a good girl, I am, and I know what the like of you are, I do.
We want none of your Listen Grove prudery here, young woman. You've got to learn to behave like a duchess. Take her away, Mrs. Pierce. If she gives you any trouble, wow her.
No, I'll call the police, I will.
You must be reasonable, Mr. Higgins. Really, you must. You can't walk over everybody like this.
Why not?
Well, why not? But you don't know anything about her. What about her parents? She may be married.
Gone.
There, as the girl very properly says, gone. Married indeed.
Who'd marry me?
Who'd marry you? By George, Eliza, when I'm done with you, the streets will be strewn with the bodies of men shooting themselves for your sake.
Nonsense, sir. You mustn't talk like that to her.
Oh, I'm leaving. Ease off his chompy ears. I don't want no bombies teaching me.
Oh, indeed. I'm mad, am I? Very well, Mrs. Pierce. You needn't order the new clothes for her. Throw her out.
Now you see what comes of being saucy. Go home to your parents, girl, and tell them to take better care of you.
I've got no parents. They told me I had to earn my own living and turn me out.
You see, the girl doesn't belong to anybody, is to no use to anybody but me.
But what's to become of her? Well, is she to be paid anything? Do be sensible, sir.
Oh, pay her whatever's necessary. Put it down in the housekeeping expenses book.
Does it occur to you, Higgins, that the girl has some feelings?
No. I don't think so. Not any feelings that we need bother about. Have you, Eliza?
I've got me feelings, same as anyone else.
Will you please keep to the point, Mr. Higgins? I want to know on what terms the girl is to be here. Is she to have any wages? And what's to become of her when you've finished your teaching? You must look ahead a little.
What if I leave her in the gutter?
Here, oh God, I had enough of this. I'm leaving. You ought to be ashamed of yourself, you ought.
Wait. Have some chocolates, Eliza. You.
How do I know what might be in them? I heard of girls being drugged by the like of you.
Consider it a pledge of good faith, Eliza. I'll eat one half, you eat the other.
Well, I don't know.
You shall have boxes of them, barrels of them. You shall live on them, eh? Listen, Eliza, I think you said you came in a taxi.
Well, what if I did? I've as good a right to take a taxi as anyone else.
You have, Eliza, and in the future you shall have as many taxis as you want. You shall go up and down and round the town in a taxi every day. Think of that, Eliza.
Mr. Higgins, you're tempting the girl. It's not right. She should think of the future.
Excuse me, Higgins, but I really must interfere. Mrs. Pierce is quite right. If this girl is to put herself in your hands for the next 6 months, for an experiment in teaching, she must understand thoroughly what's going on.
How can she? She's incapable of understanding anything.
Very clever, Higgins, but not sound sense. Miss Doolittle.
Oh, Miss Doolittle.
There. That's all you get out of Eliza. No use explaining. As a military man, you ought to know that. Give her orders. That's what she wants. Eliza, you are to live here for the next 6 months, learning how to speak beautifully like a lady in a florist shop. If you're good and do whatever you're told, you shall sleep in a proper bedroom and have lots to eat and money to buy chocolates and take rides in taxis. But if you're naughty and idle, you will sleep in the back kitchen among the black beetles and be walloped by Mrs. Pierce with a broomstick. Now, at the end of 6 months, you shall be taken to Buckingham Palace in a carriage beautifully dressed. If the king finds out you're not a lady, you will be taken by the police to the Tower of London, where your head will be cut off as a warning to other presumptuous flower girls. If you're not found out, you shall have a reward of 7 and 6 to start life with as a lady in a shop. Now, are you satisfied, Pickering? Can I put it more plainly and fairly, Mrs. Pierce?
I think you'd better let me speak to the girl privately, properly. I don't know that I can take charge of her or consent to the arrangement at all. Of course, I know you don't mean her any harm. Come with me, Eliza.
Thank you, Mrs. Pierce. Butler, off to the bathroom.
Oh, you're a great bully, you are. I never asked to go to Buckingham Palace, and I was never in trouble with the police. I'm a good girl.
Don't answer back, girl. You don't understand, Mr. Higgins. Come with me.
Excuse a straight question, Higgins. Are you a man of good character where women are concerned?
Pickering, I'm an ordinary man who desires nothing more than an ordinary chance to live exactly as he likes and do precisely what he wants. An average man am I, of no eccentric whim, who likes to live his life free of strife, doing whatever he thinks is best for him. Just an ordinary man. But let a woman in your life, and your serenity is through. She'll redecorate your home from the cellar to the dome, and then go on to the enthralling fun of overhauling you. You want to talk of Keats and Milton. She only wants to talk of love. You go to see a play or ballet and spend it searching for her glove. So let a woman in your life, and you invite eternal strife. Let them buy their wedding bands for those anxious little hands. I'd be equally as willing for a dentist to be drilling than to ever let a woman in my life.
Come, Higgins, come. You know what I mean. If I'm to be in this business, I shall feel responsible for that girl. I hope it's understood that no advantage is to be taken of her position.
What? That thing? She's simply a pupil. Eliza might as well be a block of wood or a handful of clay, wet clay at that, which we shall work and mold into the semblance of a beautiful and charming duchess.
Oh, no, or what type of man, or won't,
Oh, you silly girl.
Pickering, we have taken on a stiff job.
Higgins, yes, we have.
The problem of making a Cockney flower girl into a duchess is bound to have its complications. And one of those complications has already arrived. For at the door of the Higgins residence stands an elderly but vigorous dustman, Eliza's father. A dustman whose job it is to remove dirt and refuse from the front of fashionable homes. He has well-marked and rather interesting features, and seems equally free from fear and conscience. He has a remarkably expressive voice, the result of a habit of giving vent to his feelings without reserve. His present pose is that of wounded honor and stern resolution. If you please, sir, the trouble's beginning already. There's a dustman downstairs. Alfred Doolittle wants to see you. He says you have his daughter.
Send the blackguard up.
Very well, sir.
He may not be a blackguard, Higgins.
Nonsense, of course he's a blackguard.
Whether he is or not, I'm afraid we shall have some trouble with him.
Oh, no, I think not. If there's any trouble, he shall have it with me, and not I with him. And we are sure to get something interesting out of him.
About the girl?
No, I mean his dialect.
Oh.
Alfred Doolittle, sir.
Oh, Professor Higgins?
Here. Good morning. Sit down.
Good morning, Governor. I've come about a very serious matter.
Brought up in Hounslow. Mother Welsh, I should think.
Aye, quite right.
What do you want, Doolittle?
I want my daughter. That's what I want, see?
Of course you do. You're her father, aren't you? You don't suppose anyone else wants you, do you? Or her? She's upstairs. Take her away at once.
What?
Take her away. Do you suppose I'm going to keep your daughter for you?
Oh, now, look here, Governor. Is this reasonable? Is it fair to take advantage of a man like this? The girl belongs to me. You got her. Where do I come in?
Your daughter had the audacity to come to my house and ask me to teach her how to speak properly so that she could get a place in a flower shop. This gentleman and my housekeeper are witnesses to the arrangement. How dare you come here and attempt to blackmail me? This is a plant, a plot to extort money by threats. I shall telephone the police.
Oh, wait. Have I asked for a brass farthing? I'll leave it to the gentleman here. Have I said a word about money?
No, not so far.
What else did you come for?
Well, what would a man come for? I ask you as a parent. What was I to think? Oh, be human, Governor.
So, you came to rescue her from worse than death, eh?
Oh, just so, Governor, that's right.
But why did you bring her luggage if you intended to take her away?
Oh, have I said a word about taking her away? Have I now?
You're going to take her away double quick. Miss Pierce. Mrs. Pierce.
Yes.
Mrs. Pierce, this is Eliza's father. He's here to take her away. Give her to him.
He can't take her away, Mr. Higgins. How can he? You told me to burn her clothes.
Oh, that's right. I can't carry the girl through the streets like a bloomin' monkey, can I? I'll put it to you.
You have put it to me that you want your daughter. Take your daughter. If she has no clothes, go out and buy her some.
Where's the clothes she come in? Did I burn them, or did your missus here?
I am the housekeeper, if you please. I have sent for some clothes for your girl. When we come, you can take her away. Please, wait in the kitchen. This way.
Listen here, Governor. You and me are men of the world, ain't we?
Oh, men of the world, are we? You'd better go, Mrs. Pierce.
I think so. Indeed, sir.
The floor is yours, Mr. Doolittle.
Thank you, Governor. Well, I've sort of taken a fancy to you, Governor. And if you want the girl, I might be open to an arrangement. Regarding her being a young woman, she's a fine, handsome girl. But as a daughter, she's not worth my keep. So, I'll give it to you straight. All I ask is me rights as a father. And I know you're the last man alive to expect me to let her go for nothing. For I can see you're one of the straight ones, Governor. Well, what's a £5 note to you? And what's Eliza to me?
I think you ought to know, Doolittle, that Mr. Higgins' intentions are entirely honorable.
Well, of course they are, Governor. If I thought they wasn't, I'd have asked 50.
Do you mean to say, you callous rascal, that you would sell your daughter for £50?
Oh, not in a general way, I wouldn't. But to oblige a gentleman like you, I'd do a good deal for you, I assure you.
Have you no morals, man?
Oh, can't afford them, Governor. Neither could you if you was as poor as me. Not that I mean any harm, you know. But if Eliza's going to have a bit out of this, why not me too?
I don't know what to do, Pickering. There can be no question that as a matter of morals, it's a positive crime to give this chap even a farthing. And yet I feel sort of a rough justice in his claim.
That's it, Governor. That's all I say. A father's heart, as it were.
Well, I know the feeling, but really it seems hardly right.
Oh, don't say that, Governor. don't look at it that way. What am I? I ask you, what am I? I'm one of the undeserving poor, that's what I am. That means I'm up against middle-class morality all the time. If there's anything going and I put in for a bit of it, it's always the same. You're undeserving, so you can't have it. But my needs are as great as the most deserving widow. I don't need less than a deserving man. I need more. I don't eat less hearty than him, and I drink a lot more. I want a bit of amusement, because I'm a thinking man. I want cheerfulness at times. Well, they charge me the same as they charge the deserving. What is middle-class morality? Just an excuse for never giving me anything. Therefore, I ask, as you two gentlemen, not to play that game on me. I'm playing straight. I ain't pretending to be deserving. I'm undeserving, and I mean to go on being undeserving. I like it. That's the truth. Will you take advantage of a man's nature to do him out at the price of his own daughter, what he brought up and fed and clothed by the sweat of his own brow, until she's grown big enough to be interesting to you two gentlemen? Is £5 unreasonable? Oh, I put it to you. I'll leave it to you.
Pickering, if we were to take this man in hand for 3 months, he could choose between a seat in the cabinet and a popular pulpit in Wales.
What do you say to that, Newton?
Oh, not me, Governor. Thank you kindly. Undeserving poverty is my line.
I suppose we must give him a fiver.
He'll make bad use of it, I'm afraid.
Oh, not me, Governor. So help me, I won't. Don't you be afraid that I'll save or live idle on it. There won't be a penny of it left by Monday. And I'll have to go to work same as always, as if I'd never had it. I just want one good spree for myself and the missus, giving pleasure to ourselves and employment to others, and satisfaction to you to think that it's not been thrown away. You couldn't spend it better.
This is irresistible. Let's give him 10.
Oh, no, Governor. The missus wouldn't have the heart to spend 10, and perhaps I shouldn't either. £10 is a lot of money. It makes a man feel prudent-like. And then goodbye to happiness. You give me what I ask for, Governor. Not a penny more, not a penny less.
Pickering, if we listen to this man another minute, we shall have no convictions left. You, £5, I think you said?
Oh, thank you kindly, Governor.
You sure you won't take 10?
Oh, not now.
Well,
Another time, Governor.
all right, here you are.
Oh, thank you, Governor. Good morning. Beg pardon, miss.
Oh, go on. Don't you know your own daughter?
Blimey, it's Eliza.
What's this? Who is this?
By Jove.
Oh, well, I never thought she'd clean up as good looking as that, Governor. She's a credit to me, ain't she?
Oh, I'll tell you, it's easy to clean up here. Hot and cold water, woolly towels, soft brushes to scrub yourself, and a wooden bowl of soap smelling like primroses. Now I know why ladies is so clean. Washing's a treat for them. Wish they saw what it is for the like of me.
Oh, I'm so glad the bathroom met with your approval.
Oh, it didn't. Not all of it. And I don't care who hears me say it. Mrs. Pierce knows.
What was wrong, Mrs. Pierce?
Oh, nothing, sir. It doesn't matter.
Oh, I had a good mind to break it. I didn't know which way to look, but I hung a towel over it, I did.
Over what?
Over the looking glass, sir.
Doolittle, you have brought your daughter up too strictly.
Oh, she ain't accustomed to it, you see, that's all. But she'll soon pick up your free and easy ways.
Oh, I'm a good girl I am, and I won't pick up no free and easy ways.
Eliza, if you say again that you're a good girl, your father shall take you home.
Not him. You don't know me father. All he come for here is to touch you for some money, to get drunk on.
Well, what else would I want the money for? The plate in church, I suppose. Oh, don't give me none of your lip. And don't let me hear you giving this gentleman any of it neither. See? So long, gentlemen.
Doolittle.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
An interesting fellow. What is his trade, Eliza?
Oh, talking money out of other people's pockets into his own. His proper trade's a navvy, and he works at it sometimes too, for exercise, and he's got good money at it. Well, ain't you gonna call me Miss Doolittle anymore?
No, I beg your pardon. Miss Doolittle. It was a slip of the tongue.
Ah, I don't mind, only it sounded so genteel.
Now, Eliza, the new things have come for you to try on. Oh, don't rush about like that, girl.
Pickering, we have taken on a very stiff job.
Higgins, we have.
And now, with Mr. Doolittle taken care of, Eliza's training begins. With Pickering bearing witness, and with Higgins pushing relentlessly, we hear our flower girl struggle.
No, Eliza. A, I, you.
You.
Dreadful, just dreadful. Let me see. Repeat after me. The rain in Spain.
The Rhine in Spain
Stays mainly in the plain.
stays mainly in the plain.
No. The rain in Spain stays mainly in the plain.
The rain in Spain stays mainly in the plain.
Yes, Eliza, yes. Again, the rain in Spain stays mainly in the plain.
The rain in Spain stays mainly in the plain.
Now, once again, where does it rain?
On the plain. On the plain.
And where's that soggy plain?
In Spain. In Spain.
Together now, Eliza.
The rain in Spain stays mainly in the plain.
Now, Eliza, do you see these 3 marbles? I want you to put them in your mouth. Now, don't be alarmed. It's just an exercise. Now, repeat after me. The shallow depression in the west of these islands.
The shallow depression in the west of these islands
Is likely to move in a westerly direction.
is likely to move. A swallowed one.
Don't worry, I've plenty more. Now this. In Hampshire, Hereford, and Hartford, hurricanes hardly ever happen. In Hampshire, Hereford, and Hartford.
In Hampshire, Hereford, and Hartford,
Hurricanes hardly ever happen.
hurricanes hardly happen.
Hurricanes hardly ever happen.
Hurricanes hardly ever happen.
Better, Eliza. Not bad. Not good, but not bad either. Now, how do you address an ambassador?
Your Honor.
No. Your Excellency. Again, an ambassador.
Your Excellency.
Right. Now an archbishop.
Your Honor.
No.
Your Worship.
No. Your Grace.
Your Grace.
Yes. Now the Queen.
Your Majesty.
Yes. And a cardinal.
Your Reverence.
Yes. And an archduke.
Your Honor.
Yes, hooray. Pickering, by Jove, she's got it. A little more training and it'll be time to try her out on somebody. I know, my mother.
Several weeks have passed, and Eliza's training has progressed to the point that Mr. Higgins wants to give her social skills a trial run. For that, he seeks the opinion of none other than his mother. It is Mrs. Higgins' at-home day, a traditional aspect of Edwardian England in which the elites and/or aristocrats reserved time for social visitors and their accompanying gossip. It was a day during which fine manners and elegance was on display, as well as the best tableware and furnishings. Mrs. Higgins sits writing at an elegantly simple writing table with a bell button within reach of her hand. It is between 4 and 5 in the afternoon. The door is opened violently, and Mr. Higgins enters.
Henry, what are you doing here today? It is my at-home day, and you promised not to come. Go home at once.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Higgins, but I couldn't stop him.
I know it's your at-home day, Mother, but I came on purpose.
Oh, but you mustn't. I'm serious, Henry. You offend all my friends. They stop coming whenever they meet you.
Nonsense. I know I have no small talk, but people don't mind.
Oh, don't they? Small talk indeed. What about your large talk? Your profanity? Really, dear, you mustn't stay.
I must. I've a job for you. A phonetic job.
No use, dear. I'm sorry. But I know nothing about your phonetics.
Well, this isn't a phonetic job.
You just said it was.
Well, not your part of it. I picked up a girl.
Oh, dear.
Oh, that's quite enough, Edna. You can go back to your duties.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, Henry, does that mean that some girl has picked you up?
Not at all. I don't mean a love affair. She's coming to see you, Mother.
I don't remember asking her.
You didn't. I asked her. If you'd known her, you wouldn't have asked her.
Indeed. Why?
Well, it's like this. She's a common flower girl. I picked her off the curbstone.
And invited her to my at-home.
Oh, that'll be all right. I've taught her to speak properly, and she has strict orders as to her behavior. She's to keep to 2 subjects, the weather and everybody's health. Fine day and how do you do, you know, and not let herself go on things in general. That will be safe.
Safe? To talk about our health? About our insides? Perhaps about our outsides? Oh, how could you be so silly, Henry?
Well, she must talk about something. She needs to practice. Oh, she'll be all right. Don't you fuss. Pickering is in it with me. I have a sort of a bet on that I'll pass her off as a duchess in 6 months. I started on her some months ago, and she's getting on like a house on fire. I shall win my bet. She has a quick ear.
Well, that's satisfactory at all events.
Well, it is and it isn't.
What does that mean?
You see, I've got her pronunciation all right, but you have to consider not only how a girl pronounces, but what she pronounces. And that's where...
Mrs. Einsfordhill and Sister Clara.
Oh, Lord.
My chair, please, Henry.
How do you do? How do you do?
My son, Henry.
Your celebrated son.
I've so longed to meet you, Professor Higgins.
Delighted.
How do you do?
Colonel Pickering.
How do you do, Mrs. Higgins?
Oh, so glad you've come. Do you know Mrs. Eynsford Hill and her sister Clara?
Has Henry told you what we've come for?
We were interrupted, damn it.
Oh, Henry, really, really?
What such language? My goodness. Are we in the way?
Oh, no. You couldn't have come more fortunately. We want you to meet a friend of ours.
Yes, by George. We want 2 or 3 people. You'll do as well as anybody else. And now, what the devil are we going to talk about until Eliza comes? I can't think of a thing.
I sympathize, Mr. Higgins. I haven't any small talk either. If people would only be frank and say what they really think.
Lord forbid.
But why, Professor Higgins?
What they think they ought to think is bad enough.
Is it so very cynical?
Cynical? Who the dickens said it was cynical? I mean, it wouldn't be decent.
Not decent.
Oh,
Why?
I'm sure you don't mean that, Mr. Higgins.
Miss Doolittle?
Here she is, Mother.
How do you do, Mrs. Higgins? Mr. Higgins told me I might come today.
Quite right. I'm very glad indeed to see you.
How do you do, Miss Doolittle?
Oh, Colonel Pickering, is it not?
And this is Mrs. Eynsford Hill.
How do you do?
How do you do?
My sister, Clara.
How do you do?
How do you do? Miss Doolittle, will it rain, do you think?
Oh, the rain in Spain stays mainly in the plain.
Oh, I beg your pardon, did you say Spain?
But in Hampshire, Hereford, and Hertford, hurricanes hardly ever happen.
Oh, hurricanes? Oh dear.
The shallow depression in the west of these islands is likely to move slowly in an easterly direction. There are no indications of any great change in the barometrical situation.
How awfully funny.
What is wrong with that, ma'am? I bet I got it right.
That's killing. So unusual.
I'm sure. I hope it won't turn cold. There's so much influenza about.
Oh, my aunt died of influenza, so they said. But it's my belief they've done the old woman in.
Done her in.
Yes, Lord love you. Why should she die of influenza? She come through diphtheria right enough the year before. I saw her with my own eyes. Fairly blue with it she was. They all thought she was dead. But my father, he kept ladling gin down her throat till she come to so sudden that she bit the bowl off the spoon.
Dear me!
What call would a woman with that strength in her to die of influenza? And what become of her new straw hat that should have come to me? Somebody pinched it, and what I say is, them as pinched it done her in.
What does doing her in mean?
Oh, that's the new small talk. To do a person in means to kill them.
Oh, you surely don't believe that your aunt was killed?
Do I not? Them she lived with would have killed her for a hatpin, let alone a hat.
Oh my. Oh my.
But it can't have been right for your father to pour spirits down her throat like that. It might have killed her.
Oh, not her. Gin was like mother's milk to her. Besides, he's poured so much down his own throat that he knew the good of it.
Do you mean he drank? Drank? My word, something chronic.
Salts. My salts.
How dreadful for you.
Oh,
Not a bit. It never did him no harm that I could see. But then, he did not keep it up regular. He was always more agreeable when he had a drop-in, when he was out of work. My mother used to give him 4pence and tell him to go out and not come back until he drunk himself cheerful and loving-like. There's lots of women has to make their husbands drunk to make them fit to live with. You see, it's like this. If a man has a bit of conscience, it always takes him when he's sober. And then it makes him low-spirited. A drop of booze just takes that off and makes him happy. Here now, what are you snickering at?
The new small talk. You do it so awfully well. So common.
Well, if I was doing it proper, what was you laughing at? Have I said anything I oughtn't?
Oh, no, not at all, Miss Doolittle.
Well, that's a mercy, anyhow. Well, what I always say is... Did you speak, Mr. Higgins?
Getting late, isn't it?
Oh, well, I must go. Nice to have met you. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye, Colonel Pickering.
Goodbye, Miss Doolittle.
Goodbye, Mrs. Hill, Miss Clara.
Goodbye. Goodbye.
Are you walking across the park, Miss Doolittle? If so...
Walk? Not bloody likely. I'm going to take a taxi.
Mrs. Higgins' at-home day served as a first outing for the newly trained Eliza Doolittle. Her educational focus on pronunciation of the English language was on display and was successfully executed by Eliza. When the topics of conversation drifted away from the weather, however, she brought forth her old street language, and that was received as a new type of small talk. Higgins can't wait to get a reading on her performance from his mother.
Your son, Mr. Henry Higgins, and Professor Pickering.
Well, Mother, is Eliza presentable?
You silly boy, of course she's not presentable. She's a triumph of your phonetics art. But if you suppose for a moment that she doesn't give herself away every sentence she utters, you must be perfectly cracked about her.
But don't you think something might be done?
Oh, not as long as she's in Henry's hands. He teaches phonetics and then goes about swearing at will. The girl hears that too.
Do you mean that my language is improper?
Oh, no, dearest. It would be quite proper. Say on a canal barge. But it would not be proper for her at a garden party. We nearly had to carry Miss Clara to her taxi.
Mrs. Hill was searching in her handbag for her salts.
Colonel Pickering, will you tell me what is the exact state of things at Wimpole Street?
Well, I have come to live there with Henry. We work together in my Indian dialects. It's very convenient.
Oh, quite so, quite so. I know all about that. It's an excellent arrangement. But where does this girl live?
With us, of course. Where would she live?
But on what terms? Is she a servant? If not, what is she?
I think I know what you mean, Mrs. Higgins.
Well, dash me if I do.
I assure you, Mrs. Higgins, we take Eliza very seriously.
Yes, by George, she regularly fills our lives up, doesn't she, Pick?
We're always talking Eliza,
Teaching Eliza?
dressing Eliza.
What?
Oh, dear.
Colonel Pickering, don't you realize that when Eliza walked into Wimpole Street, something walked in with her?
But what?
A problem.
Oh, yes, a problem.
Oh, that's enough, Edna. That's quite enough.
Yes, ma'am.
No, oh, I see. The problem of how to pass her off as a lady.
I'll solve that problem. I've half solved it already.
Oh no, you two infinitely stupid male creatures. The problem of what is to be done with her afterward.
No, that will be all right, Mrs. Higgins.
We'll find her some light employment.
She's happy enough, don't you worry about her. Goodbye, Mrs. Higgins.
Goodbye, Mother.
Oh, men! Men, men, men!
It's the Wimple Street Laboratory. The clock on the mantelpiece strikes 12. Our trio of Higgins, Pickering, and Eliza have just arrived home from a night on the town. All three are obviously grateful, tired, for an easy chair to flop into.
I say, Pick, lock up, will you? I shan't be going out again.
Right, can Mrs. Pierce go to bed? We don't want anything more, do we?
Lord, no. I wonder where the devil my slippers are. Oh, Lord, what an evening. What a silly bunch of tomfoolery. Oh, my slippers, there they are.
Well, I feel a bit tired. It's been a long day. The garden party, a dinner party, and the opera. Rather too much of a good thing. But you've won your bet, Higgins. Eliza did the trick and something to spare.
Thank God it's over.
Were you nervous at the garden party? I was. Eliza didn't seem a bit nervous.
Oh, she wasn't nervous. I knew she'd be all right. No, it's the strain of putting the job through all these months that's told on me. It was a silly notion. The whole thing has been a bore.
No, come, the garden party was frightfully exciting. My heart began beating like anything.
Yes, for the first 3 minutes, but when I saw we were going to win, hands down, well, Pickering, never again for me. No more artificial duchesses.
You've never been broken in properly to the social routine. I rather enjoy dipping into it occasionally myself. It makes me feel young again. Anyhow, it was a great success, an immense success. Eliza did it so well, and there's always something professional about doing a thing superlatively well.
Yes, well, it's over and done with, and now I can go to bed at last without dreading tomorrow.
I think I shall turn in too. Still, it's been a great occasion, a triumph for you. Good night.
Good night. Put out the lights, Eliza, and tell Mrs. Pierce not to make coffee for me in the morning. I'll take tea. What the devil have I done with my slippers?
There are your slippers, and there. Take those slippers and may they never have another day's luck with them.
What on earth? What's the matter? Stand up. Is anything wrong?
Nothing wrong with you. I've won your bet for you, haven't I? That's enough for you. I don't matter, I suppose.
You won my bet. You presumptuous insect. I won it. What did you throw those slippers at me for?
Because I wanted to smash your face. I'd like to kill you, you selfish brute. Why didn't you leave me where you picked me out of? In the gutter. You thank God it's all over, and that now you can throw me back there again, do you?
How dare you show your temper to me? Sit down and be quiet.
What's to become of me? What's to become of me?
How the devil do I know what's to become of you? What does it matter what becomes of you?
You don't care. I know you don't care. You wouldn't care if I was dead. I'm nothing to you. Not so much as them slippers.
Those slippers.
Those slippers. Didn't think it made any difference now.
Why have you begun going on like this? May I ask whether you complain of your treatment here?
No.
Has anybody behaved badly to you? Colonel Pickering? Mrs. Pierce? Anyone?
No.
I presume you don't pretend that I have treated you badly?
No.
I'm glad to hear it. Perhaps you're tired after the strain of the day. Will you have a glass of champagne?
No. Thank you.
This has been coming on for some days. I suppose it was natural for you to be anxious about the garden party, but that's all over now. There's nothing more to worry about.
No. Nothing more for you to worry about. Oh, God. I wish I was dead.
But why? In heaven's name, why? What? Listen to me, Eliza. All this irritation is purely subjective.
I don't understand. I'm too ignorant.
It's only imagination, low spirits and nothing else. Nobody's hurting you. Nothing's wrong. You go to bed like a good girl and sleep it off. Have a little cry and say your prayers. That will make you comfortable.
I heard your prayers. Thank God it's all over.
Well, don't you thank God it's all over? Now you are free and can do what you like.
What am I fit for? What have you left me fit for? Where am I to go? What am I to do? What is to become of me?
Oh, that's what's worrying you, is it? I shouldn't bother about it if I were you. You'll settle yourself somewhere or other. Though I hadn't quite realized that you were going away. You might marry, you know. You see, Eliza, all men are not confirmed old bachelors like me and the Colonel. Most men are the marrying sort, poor devils. And you're not bad looking. It's quite a pleasure to look at you sometimes. Not now, of course, because you're crying and looking as ugly as the very devil. But when you're all right and quite yourself, you're what I should call attractive. You go to bed and have a good, nice rest, and then get up and look at yourself in the glass, and you won't feel so cheap. Yes, you might marry. I dare say my mother could probably find some chap or other who would do very well.
I was above this worry at my cart in Covent Garden.
What do you mean?
I sold flowers. I didn't sell myself. Now that you've made a lady out of me, I'm not fit to sell anything else. I wish you'd left me where you found me. What else am I to do?
Oh, lots of things. What about your old idea of a florist shop? Pickering could set you up in one. He's lots of money. Why, 6 months ago, your only thought was to have a flower shop of your own. Come on now, but you'll be all right. Well, I must clear off to bed. I'm devilishly sleepy. By the way, I came down here for something. I forgot what it was.
Your slippers.
Oh, yes, of course. You shied them at me.
Before you go, sir,
Yes?
do my clothes belong to me or to Colonel Pickering?
What the devil use would they be to Pickering?
Well, he might want them for the next girl you pick up to experiment on.
Is that the way you feel towards us?
I don't want to hear anything more about that. All I want to know is whether anything belongs to me. My own clothes were burnt.
But what does it matter?
I want to know what I may take away with me. I don't want to be accused of stealing.
Stealing? You shouldn't have said that, Eliza. That suggests a want of feeling on my part.
I'm sorry. I'm only a common, ignorant girl. And in my station, I have to be careful. There can't be any feelings between the like of you and the like of me. Please, tell me, what belongs to me and what doesn't?
You may take the whole damned house full if you like, except the jewels. Pickering hired them. Will that satisfy you?
Oh, stop, please. Will you take these jewels and keep them safe? I don't want them to run the risk of going missing.
Hand them over. If these belonged to me instead of the jeweler, I'd ram them down your ungrateful throat.
Oh, and this ring isn't the jeweler's. It's the one you bought me in Brighton, and I don't want it now. Take it, please.
Give it to me. There. That's what's good, the ring I bought you in Brighton.
You threw it in the fireplace.
You're fortunate I didn't throw you in the fireplace, too.
Don't hit me.
Hit you, you infamous creature? How dare you accuse me of such a thing? It is you who have hit me. You have wounded me to the heart.
Ha, I'm glad. I've got a little of my own back anyhow.
You've caused me to lose my temper. That has hardly ever happened to me before. I prefer to say nothing more tonight. I am going to bed.
Well, you'd better leave a note for Mrs. Pierce about the coffee, or she won't be told by me.
Damn Mrs. Pierce, and damn the coffee, and damn you, and damn my own folly in having lavished my hard-earned knowledge and the treasure of my regard and intimacy on a heartless gutter snipe. Good night.
Good night.
Eliza? Eliza, what's all the noise? What are you doing poking in the fireplace?
I've dropped something. I've got to find it. I've just got to find it.
Oh, good night, Eliza.
Good night. Oh, here it is.
Oh.
Just you wait, Henry Higgins, just you wait. You'll be sorry, but your tears will be too light. You'll be broke and I'll have money. Will I help ya? Don't be funny. Just you wait, Henry Higgins, just you wait. One day I'll be famous. I'll be proper and prim. I'll go to St. James so often. I'll call it St. Jim. One evening the king will say, Eliza, old thing, I want all of England your praises to sing.
Next week on the 20th of May, I proclaim life's a new little day. All the people will celebrate the glory of you, and whatever you wish and what I gladly will do.
Oh, thanks a lot, King, says I, in a manner well-bred. But all I want is Henry Higgins' head. Done, says the king with a stroke. Guards, run and bring in the bloke. Then they'll march you, Henry Higgins, to the wall. And the king will tell me, Eliza, sound the call. And as they raise their rifles higher, I'll shout, ready, aim, fire! Oh, ho, ho, Henry Higgins. Down you'll go, Henry Higgins.
Higgins and Pickering have arrived at Higgins' mother's residence. Eliza has left Higgins' Wimpole Street flat with no notice or message. The two men are suddenly feeling concern for her whereabouts and clueless as to the why or wherefore of her disappearance.
Mr. Henry, ma'am, he is downstairs with Colonel Pickering.
Well, show them up.
Mr. Henry is in a state, ma'am. I thought I'd better tell you.
Go upstairs and tell Miss Doolittle that Mr. Henry and the Colonel are here. Ask her not to come down till I send for her.
Yes, ma'am.
Look here, Mother, I've got a problem.
Yes, dear. Good morning. What is it?
Eliza's bolted.
Well, you must have frightened her.
Frightened her? Nonsense. She was left last night as usual to turn out the lights and all that. And instead of going to bed, she changed her clothes and went right off. Her bed wasn't slept in. Then she came in a cab for her things before 7 this morning. And that fool Mrs. Pierce let her have them without telling me a word about it. What am I to do?
Do without, I'm afraid, Henry. The girl has a perfect right to leave if she chooses.
But I can't find anything. I don't know what appointments I've got.
Good morning, Mrs. Higgins. Has Henry told you?
Yes, Eliza has left the two of you.
We can't let her go like this, you know, Mrs. Higgins. What were we to do?
You have no more sense, either of you, than two children. Why...
Mr. Henry, a gentleman wants to see you very particular. He's been sent on from Wimble Street.
Oh, bother. I can't see anyone now. Who is it?
A Mr. Doolittle, sir.
Doolittle? Do you mean the dustman?
The dustman? Oh, no, sir. A gentleman.
By George, Pick. It must be some relative of hers that she's gone to. Somebody we know nothing about. Send him up, quick.
Yes, sir.
Do you know any of her people?
Only her father, the fellow we told you about.
Mr. Doolittle.
Oh, see here? Do you see this? You done this.
Done what, man?
Good morning, Mr. Doolittle. Won't you please sit down?
What the dickens has happened to you? Have you found Eliza? That's the point.
No, I ain't found her. But you'll find me quick enough now after what you've done to me.
But what has my son done to you, Mr. Doolittle?
Done to me? He's ruined me. Destroyed my happiness. Tied me up and delivered me into the hands of middle-class morality.
You're raving. You're drunk. You're mad. I gave you £5. After that, I had 2 conversations with you at £0.5 an hour. I've never seen you since.
Oh, drunk am I? Mad am I? Tell me this. Did you or did you not respond to a letter from a wealthy old blighter in America? A daft old bird who gave $5 million to found moral reform societies all over the world. A bugger who wanted you to invent a universal language for him.
What? Ezra D. Wannafeller? He's dead.
Yes, he's dead. Oh, and I'm done for. Now, did you or did you not say that the most original moralist at present in England, to the best of your knowledge, was Alfred Doolittle, a common dustman?
Oh, well, after your last visit, I remember making some silly joke of the kind.
Ah, you may call it a silly joke, but thanks to you, he leaves me a share in his trust worth $3,000 a year, on the condition that I lecture for his Wannafeller Moral Reform World League as often as up to 6 times a year.
The same thing for you, Doolittle. They won't ask you twice.
Oh, it ain't the lecturing I mind. I'll lecture them, I will, and not turn their hair. It's making a gentleman of me that I object to. Who asked him to make a gentleman of me? I was happy. I was free. I touched pretty nigh everybody for money when I wanted it. Now everybody touches me for money. A year ago I hadn't a relative in the world. Now I'm 50 and not a decent week's wages among the lot of them.
But my dear Mr. Doolittle, you need not suffer all this if you are really in earnest. Nobody can force you to accept this request. You can repudiate it. Isn't that so, Colonel Pickering?
I believe so.
Huh. That's the tragedy of it, ma'am. It's easy to say, chuck it. But I haven't the nerve. Which one of us has? We're all intimidated. Intimidated, ma'am, that's what we are. What is there for me if I chuck it but the workhouse in my old age? I have to dye my hair already to keep a job as a dustman. But now I have this blasted 3,000 a year that shoves me into the bloody middle class.
Well, I'm very glad you're not going to do anything foolish, Mr. Doolittle, for this solves the problem of Eliza's future. You can provide for her now.
Yes, ma'am. I'm expected to provide for everyone now. Out of the 3,000 a year.
Nonsense. He can't provide for her. He shan't provide for her. She doesn't belong to him. I paid him £5 for her. Doolittle, either you're an honest man or a rogue.
Oh, Henry, don't be absurd. If you really want to know where Eliza is, she's upstairs.
Upstairs? Then I shall jolly soon fetch her downstairs.
Oh, be quiet, Henry, and sit down.
But...
Sit down, dear, and listen to me.
Oh, very well, but I think you might have told me this half an hour ago.
Eliza came to me this morning. She passed the night partly walking about in a rage, and partly trying not to throw herself in the river, but being afraid to. She told me of the brutal way you two treated her.
Oh, what?
My dear Mrs. Higgins, she's been telling you stories. We didn't treat her brutally. We hardly said a word to her. And we parted on particularly good terms. Higgins, did you bully her after I went to bed?
Just the other way about. She threw my slippers in my face. She behaved in the most outrageous way without the slightest provocation.
But why? What did we do?
I think I know pretty well what you did. The girl is naturally rather affectionate, I think. Isn't she, Mr. Doolittle?
Oh, very tender-hearted, ma'am. Takes after me.
Just so. She had become attached to both of you. She worked very hard, and it seemed that just when the great day of trial came and she performed beautifully for you, without making a single mistake, you two sat there and never said a word to her, but talked together of how glad you were that it was all over.
But
And then you were surprised because she threw your slippers at you? Huh. I should have thrown the fire irons at you.
We said nothing except that we were tired and wanted to go to bed. Did we, Pig?
That was all.
Are you quite sure?
Absolutely, really, that was all.
You didn't thank her, pet her, admire her, or tell her how splendid she'd been?
But she knew about all that. We didn't make speeches to her, if that's what you mean.
Perhaps we were a little inconsiderate, Higgins. Is she very angry, Mrs. Higgins?
Well, I'm afraid she won't go back to Wimple Street, especially now that Mr. Doolittle is able to keep up the position you have thrust on her. But she says she's quite willing to meet you on friendly terms and let bygones be bygones.
Oh, is she, by George?
If you promise to behave yourself, Henry, I'll ask her to come down. If not, go home, for you have taken up quite enough of my time.
Oh, all right, very well.
Now remember your promise, Henry. Mr. Doolittle, would you be so good as to step out on the balcony for a moment? I don't want Eliza to have the shock of your news until she has made it up with these two gentlemen. Would you mind?
Oh, as you wish, lady. Anything to help Henry keep her off my hands.
You called for me, ma'am.
Yes, ask Miss Doolittle to come down, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, Henry, be good.
I am behaving myself perfectly.
He is doing his best, Mrs. Higgins.
How do you do, Professor Higgins? Are you quite well?
Am I what?
Oh, but of course you are. You are never ill. So glad to see you again, Colonel Pickering. Quite chilly this morning, isn't it?
Don't you dare try this game on me. I taught it to you, and it doesn't take me in. Get up and go home, and don't be a fool.
Oh, very nicely put indeed, Henry. No woman could resist such an invitation.
You let her alone, Mother. Let her speak for herself.
Yes, dear. But you'll sit down, won't you?
Will you drop me altogether now that the experiment is over, Colonel Pickering? Professor Higgins says that I'm only a squashed cabbage leaf.
No, not at all.
But I owe so much to you that I should be very unhappy if you forgot me.
It's very kind of you to say so, Miss Doolittle.
And it's not because you paid for my dresses. I know you are generous to everybody with money, but it was from you that I learned very nice manners. And that is what makes one a lady, isn't it? You see, I was brought up to be just like Mr. Higgins, unable to control myself and using bad language on the slightest provocation. And I should never have known that ladies and gentlemen don't behave like that if you hadn't been there.
Well,
That's only his way, you know. He doesn't mean it.
Oh, I didn't mean it either when I was a flower girl. It was only my way. But you see, I did it. And that's what makes the difference after all.
No doubt. Still, he taught you to speak. And I couldn't have done that, you know.
Oh, of course. And that is his profession, isn't it?
damnation!
It was just like learning to dance in the fashionable way. There was nothing more to it than that. But do you know what began my real education?
You know what?
You calling me Miss Doolittle that day when I first came to Wimple Street. That was the beginning of self-respect for me. And there were 100 little things that came naturally to you. Things like standing up and taking off your hat and opening doors.
Oh, that was nothing.
Oh, quite the contrary. Little things like that showed me that you thought and felt of me as if I was something better than a cabbage leaf. And you never took off your boots in the dining room when I was there.
You mustn't mind that. Higgins takes his boots off all over the place.
No, I know. And I'm not blaming him. It is his way, isn't it? But it made such a difference to me that you didn't do it. You see, the difference between a lady and a flower girl is not how she behaves, but how she's treated. I shall always be a flower girl to Professor Higgins because he always treats me as a flower girl and always will. And I know I can be a lady to you because you always treated me as a lady and always will.
Well, this is really very nice of you, Miss Doolittle.
Oh, I should like for you to call me Eliza now, if you would.
Thank you, Eliza, of course.
And I should like Professor Higgins to call me Miss Doolittle.
I'll see you damned first.
Oh, Henry!
Eliza, why don't you slang back at him? Don't stand for it. It would do him a lot of good.
I can't. I could have done it once, but now I can't go back to it. You told me, you know, that when a child is brought to a foreign country, it picks up the language in a few weeks and forgets its own. Well, I am a child in your country. I have forgotten my own language and can speak nothing but yours. That's the real break-off with my cart in Covent Garden. Leaving Wimple Street finishes it.
But you're coming back to Wimple Street, aren't you? You'll forgive Higgins?
Forgive? Will she, by George? Well, let her go. Let her find out how she can get on without us. She will relapse into the gutter in 3 weeks without me at her elbow.
He's incorrigible, Eliza. You won't relapse, will you?
No, not now. Never again. I have learnt my lesson. I don't believe I could utter another one of the old sounds if I tried. Ow!
I have. Did you hear? Ow! Don't tell me she won't relapse.
Well, can you blame the girl? Oh, don't look at me like that, Eliza. It ain't my fault. I come into money.
You must have touched a millionaire this time, Dad.
I have. But I'm dressed for something special today. I'm going to St. George's, Hanover Square. Your stepmother's going to marry me.
You're going to let yourself down to marry that low common woman?
He ought to, Eliza.
Oh, well, you get your hat, Eliza, and come and see me turned off.
Well, if the Colonel says I must, I'll...
Be kind to them, Eliza. Make the best of it.
Oh well. Just to show there's no ill feeling. I'll be back in a minute.
I feel uncommon nervous about the ceremony, Colonel. I wish you'd come and see me through it.
With pleasure, as far as a bachelor can.
Now, may I come, Mr. Doolittle? I should be very sorry to miss your wedding.
Oh, I feel uncommon nervous about the ceremony, but I should be indeed honored by your condescension, then, and my poor old woman would take it as a tremendous compliment. She's been very low, thinking of the happy days that are no more.
I'll order the carriage and get ready. I shan't be more than 15 minutes. I'm going to the church to see your father married, Eliza. You'd better come in the room with me. Colonel Pickering can go on with the bridegroom.
Ah, bridegroom, oh, what a word. It makes a man realize his position somehow.
Before I go, Eliza, do forgive Henry and come back to us.
I don't think Papa would allow me. Would you, Dad?
They played you off real cunning, Eliza. I shan't interfere. It's time for us to go, Colonel. So long, Henry. See you in St. George's, Eliza.
Do stay with Henry, Eliza.
Well, Eliza, you've had a bit of your own back, as you call it. Have you had enough? Are you going to be reasonable, or do you want any more?
You want me back only to pick up your slippers and put up with your tempers and fetch and carry for you.
I haven't said I wanted you back at all.
Oh, indeed. Then what are we talking about?
About you, not me. If you come back, I shall treat you just as I have always treated you. I can't change my nature, and I don't intend to change my manners. If you come back for the sake of good fellowship. After all, you've gotten 1,000 times as much out of me as I have out of you.
But what did you do for it if you didn't care for me?
Why? Because it was my job. Eliza, once and for all, understand that I go my way and do my work without caring twopence what happens to either of us. I'm not intimidated like your father and your stepmother, so you can come back or go to the devil. It's up to you.
What am I to come back for?
I'll adopt you as my daughter and settle money on you if you like. Or would you rather marry Pickering?
Oh, I wouldn't marry you if you asked me, and you're nearer my age than what he is.
Yes, I don't suppose Pickering would at that. He's as confirmed an old bachelor as I am.
That's not what I want.
Then what in thunder are we quarreling about?
I want a little kindness. I know I'm a common, ignorant girl, and you're a book-learned gentleman, but I'm not dirt under your feet. What I did was not for the dresses and the taxis. I did it because we were pleasant together, and I came to care for you. Not to want to have you make love to me, or not forgetting the difference between us, but more friendly like.
Well, of course, that's just how I feel and how Pickering feels.
Ooh, you are a cruel tyrant. I can't talk to you. You turn everything around and against me. I'm always in the wrong. But you know very well at the time that you were nothing but a bully.
You know, I can't go back to the gutter as you call it, and that I have no real friends in the world but you and the Colonel. But I can't be coaxed around as if I was a baby or a puppy. If I can't have kindness, I'll have independence.
Independence? That's middle-class blasphemy. You heard your father. We are all dependent on one another, every soul of us on earth.
I'll let you see whether I'm dependent on you. If you can preach, I can teach. I'll go and be a teacher.
What'll you teach in heaven's name?
What you taught me. I'll teach phonetics.
Ha ha ha!
I'll offer myself as an assistant to Professor Nepean.
What? That imposter? That humbug? That toadying ignoramus? Teach him my methods? My discoveries? You take one step in his direction and I'll wring your neck, do you hear?
Ring away. What do I care? I knew you'd strike me someday. Ha! Now I know how to deal with you. What a fool I was not to think of it before. You can't take away the knowledge you gave me. You said I had a finer ear than you, and I can be civil and kind to people, which is more than you. Ha! That's done you, Henry Higgins, it has. I'll advertise in the papers that your Duchess is only a flower girl that you taught, and that she'll teach anybody to be a Duchess just the same in 6 months for 1,000 guineas. Oh, and when I think of myself crawling under your feet and being trampled on and called names all the time, and when I only had at that time to lift up my finger to be as good as you, I'd just kick myself.
You damned impudent gutter snipe, you! But it's better than sniveling, better than fetching slippers and finding spectacles, isn't it? By George, Eliza, I said I'd make a woman of you, and I have. I like you like this.
Yes, you turn around and make up to me now that I'm not afraid of you and can do without you.
Of course I do, you little fool. 5 minutes ago, you were like a millstone round my neck, and now you're a tower of strength, a consort battleship. You and I and Pickering will be 3 old bachelors together instead of only 2 men and a silly girl.
The carriage is waiting, Eliza. Are you ready?
Quite. Is the professor coming?
No, certainly not. He can't behave himself in church. He makes remarks out loud all the time on the clergyman's pronunciation.
Then I shall not see you again, Professor. Goodbye.
Goodbye, dear.
Goodbye, Mother. Oh, by the way, Eliza, upon your return, order a ham and a Stilton cheese, will you? And buy me a pair of reindeer gloves, number 8s, and a tie to match that new suit of mine. You can choose the color.
Buy them yourself.
Oh, you've spoiled her, Henry. But never mind, dear. I'll buy you the tie and gloves.
Oh, don't bother. She'll buy them all right enough. When she thinks it all over, she'll realize that it's quite possible for a duchess to buy ties for her husband without losing her dignity.
Oh, her husband? Henry, have you asked Eliza to marry you?
Why, of course.
How?
Well, I told her she was a tower of strength, a consort battleship.
Oh, Henry, you're a fool. Now I'll have to go and tell her what you meant.
Okay, thanks, Mom. Make it strong. Goodbye. Now, where did I put those slippers? wonderful crew without which this couldn't happen. Bill Meserve on sound behind the scenes, but now in front of the scenes. And Fred Ford on lights. Assistant to the director was and is Pete LaPlaca. Stage manager is Ralph Middleberger. And our director, Cecil B. Ron Smith.
Let me introduce to you our cast. On the far right, this is Jan Ross, who she played Mrs. Hill. Jane Carroll, who played Clara. Karen Ford, who played the parlor maid. Also, her name was Edna. Linda Miller as Mrs. Higgins. Chuck Barnell as Pickering. Gene Jenkins as Eliza. Brian Eiler as Professor Higgins. Janet Pitchovich as Mrs. Pierce, and Teddy House as Doolittle. Why don't you give a round of applause?